Today I wanted to share with you a little bit of my journey with gastrointestinal issues, intestinal issues, so many I've had in the past. And it all relates to the same thing. Might be a bit of a long session, but we can split it into two if it's too much. So you might, if you follow me on social media, you might have seen that recently I posted of having quite a few issues, including a fructose intolerance, a lactose intolerance, high histamine, and SIBO finally confirmed. SIBO is a small intestine bacterial overgrowth. Pretty much, it means that the bacteria in your intestine that is supposed to help you with your digestion overgrowth, and actually causes more issues than it fixes. So it brings about a lot of consequences for the body in different levels. This for me started back when I was living in Dubai in 2016 or 17. I started to realize that I was super bloated all the time, which probably started many, many more years ago, most likely when I was 17, and I'll get back to this bit. But I only started feeling it back then because I started having very, very strong stomach cramps and pains after eating, and I didn't know what was going on. So I went to a doctor at that time, like a belly doctor, a gastroenterologist, and they did the SIBO test for me, which is an air test. Again, we'll get to this one in a bit. And he said, yes, you have SIBO, we need to treat it. And at that time, the treatment they gave me was antibiotics and probiotics, which is the actual treatment for SIBO, but the way they did it wasn't long enough. They only did like 10 days of pharmacological antibiotics, and then they say take 3 months of probiotics and just that's it. At that point, that's all they gave me. So I took my antibiotics, I took my probiotics, and everything kind of improved. But then every year something new started happening, like it came back in some form of another. So for many years now, I've been trying to fight my inflammation, my gut pain, without knowing if this thing had been cured or not. But all of a sudden, I would get very much bloated out of the blue, or what I thought was out of the blue. And sometimes it would be painful, other times it wouldn't. I went through many treatments with, when I moved to Spain, I started seeing a naturopath or two. I also worked with nutritionists. We went through many different ways trying to find out what the problem was and how to fix it. And every little bit thing I did actually helped, but I hadn't gotten to the root cause of the problem up until recently. And this was because in the past I had identified that my bloating came mainly when I ate things with gluten and things with lactose. I did a gluten test. I'm not a celiac person. I am not gluten intolerant even. But I never ran a lactose intolerance test. I just did it by like trial and error, realizing that when I ate product, like especially cow products or cow like yogurt, cheeses and stuff like that, it got better. My inflammation was worse. Sorry, worse, not better. My inflammation was worse. My pain was worse. And the combination of gluten and lactose was the killer. So for a while, and this was last year, for a while, I stopped eating cheeses, which is mainly the only form of milk that I consume, and I stopped eating things with gluten. Then slowly reincorporating the gluten stuff, and it was good. And then after that, the cheese stuff, and it was also good. So I honestly thought the issue had been fixed, but it wasn't. This year, and I can date this one, on the 6th of January, after having the previous night eaten some of my regular food like chicken and veggies and potatoes, I had some spinach, which was something that I haven't had in a very long time. The next day, this is a bit disgusting, so just FYI, maybe TMI. The next day, I woke up, I was having breakfast, and I had this urge to vomit. Like, it was beyond nausea, and I had to vomit all of a sudden. To be honest, the last time I vomited before this was 10 years ago, when I was badly food poisoned with pork back in Argentina. So vomiting for me is not a normal thing. So that really, really made me think something was terribly wrong, or I was pregnant. And I wasn't pregnant. I checked. A week after that episode, during that week, I felt terrible the whole week. My stomach was off, my whole body was off, I was tired, I was like, yeah, fatigued, and I couldn't understand why. I could barely eat anything without feeling like crap. A week after that, I think I was eating some pasta, and it also had cheese and spinach. Next day, again, having my breakfast, I had to vomit one more time. I was kind of getting worried at this point. I decided to go to the emergency room to check for any infections, for any viruses. There was, at the time here in Spain, there was like a stomach virus going on, and I thought I might have had that. So I went to the hospital, and they checked me, and they couldn't find any infections. They couldn't find anything. And the emergency doctor said, why don't you check with an allergist? The symptoms that you're having, they look a lot like an allergy. And something I didn't mention, at that point, I was having a rash in my hands, and a little bit in my lips were like a bit swollen and a bit reddish. And thinking now about what was happening to me back then, and thinking it with a clear mind right now, I realized that I've had this rashes before in the past, even last year. And sorry, I'm jumping back and forth with the story, but this is just a rumble of my brain. If you know how this works, this is how it works. If you've been warned. This is just rumbles of my brain. And last year, a couple of times, I had this weird rashes in my hand, on my lips, and I went to a dermatologist at the time, because I thought the hand thing was related to the cold and to the dryness of the air and whatnot. And she even recommended treatment with corticoid creams and with a good like cream to nourish my skin and to keep it moisturized. And that worked for a little bit, but then it kept coming back. So it turns out it was all related to the allergies. So when this emergency doctor said, why don't you check an allergist? I started thinking about all these things that have been happening to me. And I did get an appointment with an allergist, but it was not only until maybe 3 weeks after that happened. In between, I went to my gastro doctor to see if there was anything on my organs, on my belly. They did an ultrasound to check for like kidney stones or anything like that. They couldn't find anything. And they just said, take this pill in case you have like the gas and the nausea and the distress, all the discomfort in your stomach, which I was feeling every day. In between, my birthday happened. This was still January. We had a small trip planned with my husband to Cantabria, to the mountains. And it was an amazing weekend. But during that weekend, I was still not feeling great. I was still very low on energy, very nauseous most of the time. I didn't know what to eat anymore. I was more and more inclined to think that whatever I was eating was making me feel all these things, but I still hadn't figured it out. So I decided to not eat cheese and bread for that weekend, and things kind of got better for a little bit. When I came back, I had my appointment with the allergist, and I was very happy I found this doctor. I talked to her about my symptoms. So to recap, I had vomited twice. I was feeling like crap every day, bloating, gas, nausea, the hives in my hands, the redness in my lips. I even had some like tingling sensations in my tongue. And I told her all of this, and she said there are two ways about this. One is a histamine problem, like you have developed a histamine intolerance, and the other thing is you have a fructose intolerance. So she asked me for two very specific tests. One is the fructose test, and the other one was a full blood panel with urine and feces as well. A full blood panel to check for allergies, to check for any imbalances in my hormones, to check for anything weird in my bloods. And the urine was a full day of urine to test the histamine levels. And then she did like the feces for parasites or any other stuff that could have been out in the open there. I did all of that, and just to tell you, the fructose intolerance test is an air test. So what you do is you have to drink a concoction, which is like sugar pretty much, and then you have to breathe into different tubes, like lab test tubes, for 3 hours. You breathe into a different tube every 25 minutes, and then you take that to the lab. The breath is analyzed for different reactions, for levels of different things or particles, and then you get your results after like a week or so. So when I got my results, the fructose intolerance came back positive. And this test analyzes for fructose and sorbitol intolerance, which is like sugars that you can find in food, but also like additional like sweeteners. And it also analyzes for something called polyols, which is a sugar chain that many vegetables and fruits have. So this all came back positive, and I also did my blood test and the urine test, and the urine test brought up my histamine levels were extremely high, like abnormally high. So my body, what it means is that my body, instead of replying to or responding to an allergen in a way that was, okay, this is an allergen that you're eating, we're going to fight it, and so that it doesn't give you a reaction, it was actually sending more histamine than needed and producing a bigger reaction. So when I ate something that has histamine, or parentheses, all foods have histamine, some have more than others. So things that are very, very high in histamine are, for example, eggs and avocado and chocolate and nuts, which I was eating on a daily basis. So my body, what it was doing, it was giving me a reaction. And the reaction is nausea. The reaction is gas, like burping a lot. And the reaction is also my hands turning purple, which was freakish. So I was having that on the one hand, and then if I ate anything with sugar, including some fruits and veggies, say an apple, a pear, which I also ate almost on a regular basis, I was getting hives, red skin, itchiness, like a proper allergic reaction. So I went to the doctor with all of this, and she's like, yeah, you have the fructose intolerance and you have the histamine levels extremely high. And she recommended I start cutting and lowering a bunch of food that contains these ingredients. And in the meantime, she also gave me a lactose intolerance test and the SIBO test per se. So I start reducing all these foods that contain the sugars, and this includes onions, leek, garlic, plenty of fruits, plenty of veggies, of course, any real actual sugar and sweeteners. And then I also have to be careful with the histamine foods like eggs. She said no alcohol, no nuts, no chocolate. And then with the other ones like eggs and avo, for example, citric fruits, bananas, they all produce a histamine response in the body, or higher one. I had to be very careful and start testing it out. So while I was doing the other tests, the lactose and the SIBO, I was testing all these things out with my food. So I have a very extensive food diary where I would say, okay, I ate this today, did I have a reaction, did I not, and what the reaction was. So I could say if I had a reaction, I have to eliminate this for the time being. So it was a very painful couple of weeks while I was figuring all that out, because everything seemed to give me a reaction, but then slowly I started to figure it out, following the lists and also doing a bunch of research. My husband helped me a lot with the research, and ChatGPT also did plenty of the work. Thank God for AI at this point. So I was being very careful with all of this and still getting some reactions. I had to do the lactose intolerance test, which is also an air test, same as the fructose one. You drink lactose in this case. It's disgusting. You do your 3 hours of breathing into the different tubes. You get it to the lab. After a week, you get your results. Of course, I'm lactose intolerant. It's very, very positive. Lactose, after all, is also sugar. And then a week after that, because you have to wait a little bit, I did the SIBO one, which is also an air test. They just give you another thingy to drink, and you do your breathing in the tubes and get your results after another week. So this was like 2 or 3 more weeks after I had seen the doctor for the second time. SIBO came back positive, pretty much. And there are different types of SIBO. There's hydrogen, methane, and sulfur SIBO. So SIBO, pretty much when the bacteria overgrowth, they produce gases in your body that are not beneficial to your body. And you get different symptoms, like the bloating and awful farts, very smelly farts if it's a methane SIBO, or diarrhea if it's a hydrogen SIBO, constipation if it's methane. And it turns out I have a mix of both. The sulfur one cannot be tested, so it's only sort of a guess. If you have hydrogen and methane, very likely you have sulfur too. So you get even more restrictions in the food, which is pretty much crappy. I had all my tests, went back to my ChatGPT because my appointment with my doctor was only until maybe 4 or 5 days after I had all the tests. I couldn't wait. Did a deep research with the AI and came up with a list of, okay, what can I eat considering I have a fructose and sorbitol intolerance, a lactose intolerance, high histamine levels, and SIBO by hydrogen and methane. And luckily, because we have this option of a deep search in the web thanks to my husband's user, I got a very extensive and very comprehensive sort of response from the AI. And based on the list that the AI gave me, I started adjusting my diet again until I saw my doctor. I saw her finally last Monday. And she confirmed everything that I had seen on the tests, and now we can finally start the treatment. So how does it look at the moment? SIBO is something you have to kill, so you need antibiotics. Because it is such a heavy thing and so difficult to kill, you need antibiotics for a very long time, and to protect your gut, you have to take them together with probiotics. So what happened, the treatment I did in Dubai, I did antibiotics first and then probiotics. In reality, you have to do both at once. So this is what I am doing now. And because it is such a long treatment, I cannot do pharmacological antibiotics for such a long time, no more than 10 days, because it destroys your body. So I am doing 10 days of pharmacological antibiotics because I chose that, with a probiotic. And then for 2 more months, I'm going to do herbal antibiotics with another probiotic. I could have gone all herbal. So if you have a case like this, your doctor should let you choose. My doctor said, what do you want to choose? Do you want to go all herbal? Do you want to do a mix? What do you want to do? I chose the mix because I wanted it to go a little bit faster. But it's also kind of hard. But I did choose it on purpose. You can choose to do it all herbal, and I'll take maybe, instead of 2.5 months, it might take 4, because herbal antibiotics take a lot longer to kind of do their thing, go do their job. But they are much nicer for the gut and a lot softer and better to tolerate for the body. So currently I am doing today is day 3 of my pharma antibiotics. There's one of the antibiotics that releases histamine, so it's kind of a killer. It gets me dizzy and nauseous every time I take it, but at the same time I need it to kill all the other shit. So I need to either deal with it, or if I cannot deal with it, then the doctor will find something else for me. But we're trying it out. When these 10 days are done, I'm going to start the herbal ones. And after these 2.5, 3 months pass, I will do another SIBO test and another histamine in my urine test. So pretty much what this treatment is doing is fixing my SIBO, hopefully. What happens is, the conclusion is that I have had a fructose and a lactose intolerance from a very, very long time ago, but I've never had such a big effect as this year with the rashes and the lips and the tongue and everything. So I've never actually paid so much attention to it. And because I've been feeding my gut all these things that are not good, and again, don't think fructose as a piece of pie. We're talking fruits and veggies here. We're talking things that you may actually like. They're kind of common, flour, like it all has fructans and it all has fructose. So I've been feeding my body these things that are not good for me for such a long time that this actually created the SIBO. And now the SIBO makes everything worse. The SIBO is raising my histamine levels. The SIBO is making my fructose and lactose intolerance much worse than they were. So we need to treat this. Hopefully there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and I'll keep you posted on this, but hopefully what's going to happen is, once the SIBO is treated, my histamine levels will go down and I will not have these reactions anymore, at least on the histamine side. But my fructose and my lactose intolerance will remain, just with much milder reactions than what I'm having at the moment. I will still have to be careful. And if I want to have a feast of, I don't know, an apple pie, there's enzymes that I can take before eating the apple pie, and I'm being happy and not suffering. So there is that. Same with lactose. There is a lactase enzyme that I can buy and have it if I want to have like a cheesecake or something, or a pizza. So there's a way out, but I first need to go through these 2.5 months of treatment. One more thing I wanted to mention. I am working with a nutritionist right now. I've been working with a nutritionist for a while because of my job is very demanding and I need a lot of energy and I never seem to have enough. So I work with a nutritionist so that she helps me stay on track with how much I actually need to eat to be on the right energy levels for my job and for my life and for my training. And now that I have all the results for this, I'm back to working with her. So she's building a plan for me so that I can eat the things that are not harmful, but I can also eat the right quantities. Because the thing that happened when all this started was, okay, I can start cutting back on food. I start cutting back on everything. And to be honest, all I'm eating today is gluten-free bread, turkey that I bake myself from the turkey breast. So that's my breakfast in a way. And then I'll have potatoes and some form of protein like chicken, beef, or fish. And one of the veggies I can eat, which is either zucchini, carrots, or parsnip. And maybe some olives for lunch. My afternoon snack is the same as breakfast, and my dinner is the same as my lunch. And the one fruit I can eat are grapes and maybe blueberries, and that's about it. So I'm eating like those 5 or 6 things, and I was hungry all the time. Like these past weeks, I've been hungry all the time because I'm not sure I'm eating the right amount. So hopefully next week it would all change when I get my plan from the nutritionist. And she will also help me find some of the things that I can actually eat, so I can mix a little bit of something else. What else I want to say about this is I've talked to you about all the things I've been through right now, but the main issue and the main thing that I am feeling right now, the main difference I'm feeling right now after 3 or 4 weeks already of not eating anything with the fructose or sorbitol and the polyols is that I am not tired anymore. Because what I was feeling during January and February, I was exhausted all the time. I was fatigued all the time. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to work. I didn't want to do my training. I didn't want to do anything in the house. I just wanted to lay on the couch. And like, honestly, exhausted all the time. It felt like I was having some sort of burnout, like, a mental breakdown and burnout when you're too stressed. And I was getting very worried about that. And I stopped eating all those things that were that were super, super bad for my body. And it has changed. I am more energetic now. I feel better with everything I'm doing now. I want to work. I want to train. I want to do things. I also want to rest and chill, but I have more energy to do the things that I like doing and to enjoy my life and to enjoy my work. So, you know, many, many times we just feel tired, we feel exhausted, and we don't know why. And a lot of times it happens because we're overworked or overtrained, or because we're too stressed about life and the million things we have to do as women in life, because we can't stop, apparently. But sometimes it could be something else, and our guts are responsible for so much of what we go through, so much of how our body feels and what we can do and cannot do. This gut brain connection is absolutely real. So if you have a suspicion that maybe your tiredness, your exhaustion is coming from somewhere else that is not your everyday stresses of life, maybe check in with your food, check in what you're eating, and if you're feeling any weird symptoms after eating some things. Because honestly, for me, I mean, it's not, I don't want to say it's too late, but I honestly I didn't realize this was all because of an intolerance. And now that I am not eating those things, I am seeing it. It was all because of the intolerance. It's insane, but it is the way it is. So for today, I'm going to start rambling. This is what I wanted to tell you, a little bit of the story of what is going on, what has been going on, and I'll maybe give a shorter update once I start eating properly next week. And after the 2.5 months of treatment, I can also give you a little bit of an update on how things are going. And if you have any questions, if you want to talk to me about life, what about training or whatever, if you need help with your training, you know where to find me. You go to www.growstrongher, so her with h.com, and you can get an appointment with me, a free consultation. We jump on a call, or you can follow me on Instagram it's at Vanessa Nicolosi. And I also have the at Grow Strongher, that is grow_strongher. And if you have any questions, anything you want to talk to me about, life, health, workouts, fitness, women's fitness, if you want to start training, if you want to talk about strength training, then you can find me in www.growstrongher.com, and you can book an appointment with me, a free consultation. You can also follow me on Instagram in at Vanessa Nicolosi and at grow_strongher for any updates, and I'll chat to you very, very soon.